Hey guys, welcome to Y&R Daily Update YouTube channel. Today's topics: Young and the Restless spoilers revealed a tension in the relationship between Billy, Sally, and Jill. It all started with a seemingly small detail. Billy reassured Sally that Jack had refused to fund her plan. On the surface, it was just a bureaucratic answer, no approval, but to Sally, it was like a door slammed shut before she could even touch the handle. And since Sally has lived by survival instinct for half her life, one door closing only makes her look for another. Jill Abbott, the woman who has repeatedly turned impossible into possible, immediately became the most likely fulcrum when Sally decided to bypass Billy to access money and influence. By proactively contacting, scheduling presentations, and proposing a partnership between her project and Abbott Communications, Sally wasn't just looking for funding, she was looking for a stamp of guarantee for the future. But that move in the Abbott family ecosystem was like lighting a match near a tank of gasoline. Sally knew Billy and Jill had a complicated mother-son history. Jill was skeptical. Billy craved recognition. Jill bet on outsiders. Billy felt left out on his own turf. When Sally quietly jumped over Billy's head to meet Jill, she accidentally hit a sore spot that had been bothering him for a long time. The fear of being overlooked, of being outdone, of being seen as incompetent to lead a serious project. So, while on paper it was a fundraising move, in essence, it was a cold message. I don't trust you to handle it. For Billy, this wasn't about money, it was about dignity. Not only did he lose the initiative in the negotiation, he also lost face in front of his own mother, who always doubted him. She understood Genoa's political rhythm. If you knocked on the right door, it would go faster than any internal process. Second, she saw in Abbott Communications not just cash flow, but also an amplification ecosystem, press relations, a network of content distributors, integrated media packages, all of which could transform her project from niche to Third, Sally undervalued the personal risk over the opportunity risk. If she waited for Billy to work it out internally, she might lose the momentum. If she went with Jill, she would at least have a chance to get into the decision-making room. The only flaw in that equation was the emotional component. She underestimated the seismic impact this move would have on Billy's fragile but self-respecting ego. Jill never listens to just a pitch. She smells opportunity. In Sally, she saw three things: growth energy, an eye for the market, and the ability to pivot during a storm. Jill understood that for Abbott Communications to maintain its position, it had to have locomotives who were willing to accelerate, sometimes even accepting that the flag bearer was not Abbott. But Jill was not naive. She knew that meeting Sally behind Billy's back would anger her son. So if she nodded, Jill would nod in her own way, with a clause, with a barrier, with a security belt, so that if anything went off, the explosion would be directed outward, not toward Abbott's core. Billy's first reaction was surely anger. Angry at Sally for being angry at Jill for once again trusting someone else. Angry at himself for misjudging the situation and losing the game when he thought he was in control. But after the heat of the moment, came a moment of looking in the mirror. If Billy wanted to escape the role of mama's boy, he had to leave the emotional game and return to the strategic chessboard. Jack may not want to get involved in Billy's business, but when it comes to a deal involving the Abbott Communications brand, he can't stay out of it. Jack usually plays the role of peacemaker, but this time, he faces a difficult task: protecting Billy without extinguishing Sally's opportunistic fire. The board will ask three cold questions. What is the reputational risk if the deal is labeled internal conflict? How will the governance plan shift power so as not to create a precedent of overstepping the middle? Those questions force all three, Sally, Billy, Jill, to provide written answers, not just promises in the hallway. The biggest danger is not a fight, but the story leaking out in an unfavorable way. If the market hears Abbott Communications split, mother-daughter confrontation, girlfriend cheating, the brand value will be lost more than any investment could bring. So in parallel with the power arrangement, all three need a unified narrative to frame the development. Subscribe our channel for more latest update. This is the normal process of multi-channel investment appraisal. All exchanges follow the process, and the head who is ultimately responsible is still the Abbott structure. A consistent story will be a shield against all speculation. Sally struck a match. That fire can burn a relationship, or it can melt old suspicions into a more durable alloy of individual and structure. Billy stands between a boy who was cheated by his mother and a leader who turns anger into discipline. Jill stands between the habit of taking shortcuts and the responsibility of clearing the way for the next generation. In the coming episodes, we won't just see who wins and who loses. We'll see an exercise in emotional management in a complex power environment. And as always in Genoa, the outcome depends on one seemingly small but enormous factor: trust. The one currency that no amount of press releases from Abbott Communications can replace. The Abbott crisis is not sparked by a single bomb, but by a series of slow-burning fires: betrayal, crushed pride, and a secret investment that could reshape the balance of power and trust. At the center of the storm is Billy, who has repeatedly proven that his tolerance for rejection is dangerously fragile. Surrounding him are Sally, in take-control mode, and Jill, a woman who has never stopped seeing power as an art. When these three orbits collide, Genoa City's autumn will be ignited by moves, both cold and bold. For Billy, betrayal is more than a rejection of affection. It's a blow to his ego. He's been struggling between the temptation to self-destruct and the desire to be a better man. A history of gambling, drinking, and impulsiveness has created a habit. Whenever his self-esteem hits rock bottom, he will seek the quickest painkiller. Whether it be a card game or a blind charge into confrontation this time, the feeling of being castrated, disempowered, comes not from one person, but from both. The mother who has endured enough of his downfalls and the woman he wants to hold hands with to prove he is different. The combination of mother and lover, an unexpected power couple, will rub the same old scar, pushing Billy to the edge of a cliff where all the lessons of growing up can be easily erased in just one long night. When Billy feels left out of the game, the first drink is not alcohol, but the feeling of wanting to prove himself. He will look for a quick victory, a comeback to regain the initiative. Gambling becomes a channel to release pressure. A win can give him the illusion of control. A loss legitimizes anger. Worse, his instinct for revenge could push him into dangerous alliances, ones that even the best of minds knows to avoid. They are Adam, an old enemy who shares the same shadow language, and Cain, a man Jill openly sympathizes with. With his pride bruised, Billy can easily see in them situational allies who can lift him out of the quagmire of loneliness. An alliance with Adam, if it happens, will not be out of trust, but out of mutual understanding. Adam understands how pain turns people into self-inflicted weapons. He also understands the rules of the corporate game. The most effective attack is one that makes an opponent doubt his own family. With Billy, Adam can plot a return to power route, exploit the rift between him and Jack, raise doubts about Jill's motives, and turn the investment into evidence of manipulation. In return, Billy could provide Adam with a frontline partner, someone bold enough to do things Adam wouldn't do openly. But every handshake with Adam comes with hidden clauses. Every move is a tightrope that ties his reputation and future. If Adam is a dark mirror, Cain is a pragmatic temptation. In Jill's eyes, Cain was a less risky option than Billy in his cold calculation. Partnering with Cain, Billy would feel looked at differently by his mother, that he was playing a game that Jill had to respect. But that was also the trap. The more he relied on Cain, the more Billy proved Jill's point. He couldn't stand on his own. King could bring about a series of quick tactics to swap project control, build up the board of directors, even create market incidents to put pressure. Each move helped Billy win in the short term, but secretly drove a nail into his image in the long term. Investing in Sally is more than just funding a project. It's a tie two horses to the same cart move. Control Sally and Billy with a single rope. Jill is a master of psychological warfare. When the opponent is hard to control what he needs: his lover's job, the resources of the projects he wants to participate in, the board meeting schedule, the performance reports that the press craves. In Jill's hands, money is both a talisman and a collar. She can pull Sally up high to prove I'm still the supporter. Subscribe our channel for more latest update. Then, when necessary, let go just enough to show people the dangerous heights of opposing her. For Billy, it's a harsh signal. Mom has switched her strategy from salvation to risk management. This pivot will trigger a chain reaction. At Jabo, Jack couldn't help but smell the same old pattern. Every time Billy was pulled out, the company would be dragged into a minor storm, a leak, an impulsive deal, a hasty decision in marketing or M&A. At Chancellor, Jill's name was always the gravitational pull. Sally's investments might be labeled strategic investment in innovation, but a legal savvy would read it as a soft control signal, and Newman, even if he was just watching from the sidelines, would be listening. Any rift between Abbott and Abbott was a perpetual opportunity for a biting opponent. Jill's secret investment in Sally, when it came out, would not just disrupt the dinner. It would sever the fragile thread of trust Billy had woven. First, the emotional part. He felt left out even in his private relationship. His beloved sitting across from his mother negotiating her future and indirectly his without him in the room. Next comes the legal audit committees, conflicts of interest, questions about disproportionate influence in policy decisions. And finally, the media. The tabloids will tear into the mother-son lover story with merciless headlines while the financial world discusses in the hallways of conferences. Is this a power reorganization for Jill or a sign of trouble for Jabbo Chancellor? Jack, who has repeatedly pulled Billy out of the hole, will face a difficult choice. Bring his brother back to the table or let him hit the wall of reality once more. Kyle, pragmatic and sensitive to power, will watch for a break if Billy falls. Who will fill the void? Lily, with her own history with Billy, may hesitate between offering advice and maintaining a necessary professional distance. And it is in these suborbits that new dramas and new opportunities can arise. A governance push from the board, a proposal to temporarily empower someone else, or a surprise vote of confidence. Sally knows the price of Jill's investment. Every progress report, every fundraising milestone, every new partner she brings on board can be interpreted in two ways: Sally's ability or Jill's approval. To break that shadow, Sally must win with product and market, not relationships. This pushes her into a ruthless work cycle. Long nights, quick decisions, cutting off emotions when necessary. The personality change begins to be clear. Less defense, more offense, less complaining, more metrics. But as she progresses, she increasingly has to answer the difficult question: does independence mean standing apart from Billy? Not just in the project, but in life. If Billy continues down the slippery slope, he could very well fall into the classic pattern: alcohol, cards, and a destructive counterplan. Perhaps leaking sensitive information, perhaps activating hidden connections to undermine a deal tied to Sally. But there's another scenario. More difficult, but more compelling. Billy soberly realizes he's being cornered into conforming to everyone's expectations. He chooses a leader himself. He turns off his phone, goes to a therapy meeting, focuses on a specific task, and completes it flawlessly. In the Abbott world, sometimes the greatest victory is refusing to fight the battles others have set for him. However, to take this path, Billy must accept something painful. Power doesn't come from stirring up storms, but from surviving them. The moment the secret is exposed is the moment all assumptions collapse. Billy no longer faces Jack's rejection as before. This time he faces a double rejection from his mother, who directly cuts off the source of trust, and from his lover, who signs a contract that puts work above emotion. Jack can intervene to minimize the damage to the company, but no one can mend the web of family trust overnight. For Jill, she will declare it a purely business decision. For Sally, she will insist it is a necessary step toward maturity. And for Billy, it is a cut that will scar. A reminder every morning that real power is not given, but can only be won through self-discipline. The perfect recipe for a corporate family battle that dominates the fall. Billy is backed into a corner. Sally takes the wheel. And Jill holds the beat like a conductor who knows exactly which note will set the whole choir off key. But the young and the restless always leaves two paths open: a short, noisy, impulsive path and a long, quiet, disciplined path. The fallout will surely shake the Abbotts. The question is, will it shatter them or remake them into something stronger than steel? Subscribe our channel for more latest update. When the secret is revealed, the reverberations will not only echo in the boardroom, they will echo in every dinner, every look, every decision the next day. And that is what makes this story not only worth watching, but also worth remembering long after the fall has passed. Subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with the latest news.